She was a small-town teacher looking for something real. He was hiding a billion-dollar secret, one perfect blind date, until the truth came crashing down.
Everything I told you tonight was true, I just left out certain details.
The connection was undeniable. The chemistry was electric. But when his private jet arrived at the end of their perfect evening,
You made me feel seen. Then you made me feel like a fool.
suddenly the man who could buy anything discovered that love can't be purchased, and the woman who valued honesty above all had to choose between protecting her heart and risking everything for a love that could destroy the life she'd built.
I'm falling in love with you, Nia Carter. Not because you fit into my world, but because you've shown me a better one.
I don't know if I'm cut out for your world, Eli.
Will a teacher from the real world and a billionaire heir prove that true love can bridge any divide? Or will the price of loving someone from a different universe be too high to pay? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you're watching from today. Nia Carter stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror of Rosie's cafe and sighed. She smoothed down her yellow sundress for the 5th time and adjusted the small silver hoop earrings her mother had given her last Christmas. This is a mistake, she muttered to herself. A complete waste of time. 6 months had passed since Derek, her boyfriend of 3 years, had packed his things and walked out of her apartment and her life. His parting words still echoed in her mind. I need someone less complicated, Nia. Someone who doesn't overthink everything. The bathroom door swung open, and her best friend Tanya burst in, all smiles and enthusiasm. There you are, girl. You've been hiding in here for 10 minutes. Your date is waiting, and let me tell you, he is fine. Tanya's eyes widened for emphasis. Nia crossed her arms. I still can't believe I let you talk me into this. After Derek, you need to remember there are decent men in the world, Tanya interrupted, grabbing Nia's shoulders. Listen to me. One date, that's all I'm asking. If you hate it, I'll never set you up again. Nia took a deep breath. Fine. One date, but when it crashes and burns, I'm done with dating apps and blind dates forever. Tanya grinned. That's my girl. Now go get him. When Nia stepped out of the bathroom and walked toward the table by the window, she expected to feel nothing. After months of emotional numbness, she had convinced herself that the part of her heart that could flutter with excitement was permanently broken. But the man who stood up as she approached wasn't what she expected. Eli Monroe wasn't flashy or intimidating. He wore a simple blue button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows, revealing strong forearms. His smile was gentle, almost shy, and his eyes, a warm brown that reminded her of honey, held hers with genuine interest. You must be Nia, he said, his voice soft but confident. I'm Eli. Nice to meet you, she replied automatically, sliding into her seat as he held the chair for her. I ordered us some water, Eli said, sitting down across from her. I hope that's okay. I didn't want to assume what you'd want to drink. Nia nodded, surprised by his consideration. Most of her previous dates had ordered for her without asking. So she began, falling back on her prepared small talk. Tanya tells me you work in shipping. Eli smiled, and Nia noticed a small dimple in his right cheek. That's right. Import-export business. Nothing too exciting. Is that how you two met? Through work? No, actually. I met Jason, Tanya's husband, at a community service event. We were both volunteering at the food bank downtown. Nia raised an eyebrow. You volunteer at the food bank? When I can, Eli said, with a modest shrug. My schedule can be unpredictable, but I try to make time for it. The waitress arrived to take their orders. Nia chose a glass of white wine, and Eli ordered the same. So Tanya mentioned you're an art teacher. Eli asked after the waitress left. Elementary school. I teach at Oakwood Elementary. That must be rewarding, Eli said, leaning forward slightly. Working with kids, helping them express themselves. It is, Nia admitted, finding herself relaxing a little. Every day is different. The kids keep me on my toes. Do you have a favorite project you do with them? The question caught Nia off guard. Most people asked about the challenges of teaching or made jokes about finger painting. No one had ever asked about her favorite projects. We do this thing called emotion sculptures, she found herself explaining. The kids use clay to create shapes that represent different feelings, It helps them process emotions they might not have words for yet. Eli's eyes lit up with genuine interest. That's brilliant. Kids need that kind of outlet. Did you have art classes growing up? Nia asked. A shadow passed over Eli's face so quickly, Nia almost missed it. Not really. My education was pretty traditional. Lots of math and business courses. No time for creativity. Not in my father's world, Eli said, then smiled again. But I'm making up for lost time now. I've been taking photography classes on weekends. The waitress brought their wine, and Nia took a sip, studying Eli over the rim of her glass. There was something different about him, an attentiveness, a way of listening that made her feel like every word she said mattered. 2 hours passed in what felt like minutes. They ordered dinner, shared a dessert, and talked about everything from their favorite books to childhood memories. Eli told her about growing up as an only child, and Nia shared stories about her large, boisterous family. My mother is the toughest critic and the fiercest defender, Nia said, laughing as she recounted her mother's reaction to her first art show in college. She told me my still life looked like dead fruit on a dirty tablecloth, but then nearly got into a fight with another parent who said the same thing. Eli laughed, a warm sound that made Nia smile. She sounds like a force of nature. That's putting it mildly, Nia agreed. What about your parents? Eli's smile faded slightly. My mother passed away when I was 16, cancer. I'm so sorry, Nia said, instinctively reaching across the table to touch his hand. It was a long time ago, Eli said, his fingers briefly squeezing hers. My father, well, he did his best. Running the business took most of his attention. The restaurant had emptied out around them, and Nia realized with surprise that they were among the last customers. I should probably be heading home, she said reluctantly. I have an early class tomorrow. Of course, Eli said, signaling for the check. I've really enjoyed tonight, Nia. Me too, she admitted, and meant it. Outside the restaurant, the October night air was cool and crisp. Nia wrapped her light jacket tighter around herself. Let me walk you to your car, Eli offered. Where are you parked? Nia asked. I'm in the lot around the corner. Eli hesitated, looking slightly uncomfortable for the first time that evening. I actually don't have a car here. Nia frowned in confusion. Did you take an Uber? Before Eli could answer, a sleek black SUV pulled up to the curb in front of them. The driver, a middle-aged man in a dark suit, stepped out and nodded respectfully to Eli. Good evening, Mr. Monroe, he said. Nia stared at the scene unfolding before her, a sinking feeling in her stomach. The warm, down-to-earth man she'd spent the evening with suddenly seemed like a stranger. Eli turned to her, looking almost sheepish. I know this is going to sound insane, he said, but would you trust me if I said this isn't how I usually do things? Nia crossed her arms. What things? Dating? Or pretending to be someone you're not? I wasn't pretending, Eli said quickly. Everything I told you tonight was true, except for the part where you're apparently important enough to have a personal driver. Nia retorted. Please just let me explain, Eli said. There's somewhere I'd like to take you. If you hate it, Robert can drive you straight home. Every instinct told Nia to walk away, to thank Eli for dinner and never see him again. But something in his eyes, a vulnerability, a plea, made her hesitate. Where? She asked cautiously. It's a surprise, Eli admitted. But I promise it's not what you think. Against her better judgment, Nia found herself nodding. Fine, but this better be good. The interior of the SUV was luxurious, with soft leather seats and tinted windows. Nia sat rigidly, keeping space between herself and Eli, her mind racing. Who was this man really? A wealthy businessman playing at being ordinary? Some kind of con artist? They drove for about 20 minutes, leaving the city behind. When the SUV turned onto a private road and approached a security gate, Nia's anxiety spiked. Eli, where are we going? She demanded. We're almost there, he assured her. Just a few more minutes. The SUV wound through a wooded area before emerging onto a clearing. Nia's eyes widened as she saw what awaited them, a small airfield with a sleek private jet parked on the tarmac. The plane was white with a blue stripe, and near the nose was an emblem, a stylized M within a circle. What is this? Nia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Eli looked at her, his expression a mixture of hope and resignation. This is my family's plane, and that's our family crest. The SUV stopped, and Robert opened the door for them. Eli stepped out first, then offered his hand to Nia. She ignored it, climbing out on her own. Your family has a crest, she said flatly. And a private jet. Yes, Eli admitted. Were you planning to fly me somewhere without telling me? Is this some kind of rich guy move to impress women? No, Eli looked genuinely distressed. It's not like that at all. I never planned for tonight to end this way. Then why are we here? Nia demanded, anger rising in her chest. Eli ran a hand through his hair. The truth is, I got a text from my security team during dinner. A photographer recognized me at the restaurant. They've been following me for weeks, ever since a tabloid printed a story about my personal life. A photographer? Nia repeated incredulously. Why would photographers care about you? Eli took a deep breath. Because I'm Elijah Monroe III, only son of Elijah Monroe Jr., owner of Monroe Shipping International. The name registered vaguely in Nia's mind. She'd seen it in business news segments, on the sides of cargo ships in the harbor, maybe even in her father's business magazines. So you're rich, she said bluntly. It's more complicated than that, Eli said. My father is one of the wealthiest men on the East Coast. Our family has been in shipping for generations. We're known. And you didn't think this was worth mentioning during our 2-hour dinner. Nia's voice rose. You let me ramble on about public school budget cuts and my tiny apartment, all while you probably own half the city. I don't own half the city, Eli protested. And I didn't mention it because I wanted you to get to know me, just me, not my family name or my bank account. So you lied. I didn't lie, Eli insisted. I just left out certain details. That's the same thing. Nia exploded. You made me feel comfortable, like we were equals, like we connected. You made me feel seen. Then you pulled this stunt and made me feel like a fool. Eli flinched as if she'd slapped him. That wasn't my intention. Then what was your intention? Why bring me here? The plan was to fly you home, Eli admitted. It's faster than driving back to the city, and we could avoid the photographers. They're probably still waiting at the restaurant. Nia laughed bitterly. So this is about protecting yourself. God forbid the tabloids see you with someone like me. That's not it at all, Eli said, taking a step toward her. I'm trying to protect you. Once they get your name, they'll dig into your life, your job, your family. They'll camp outside your apartment, your school. They won't leave you alone. All because of one date? Nia asked skeptically. Eli looked away. My last relationship ended badly, very publicly. The woman I was seeing, she sold her story to the highest bidder. Now every time I'm seen with someone new, they swarm like sharks. Despite her anger, Nia felt a twinge of sympathy. The pain in Eli's voice sounded genuine. I'm sorry that happened to you, she said, her tone softening slightly. But that doesn't justify misleading me. You're right, Eli conceded. I should have been honest from the beginning. But every time a woman finds out who I am before she knows me, it changes everything. They either see dollar signs or run for the hills. And which did you think I would do? Nia challenged. Eli looked directly into her eyes. I didn't know. That's why I wanted tonight to be just about us. Two people getting to know each other without any of this getting in the way. Nia shook her head, conflict churning inside her. The connection she'd felt with Eli during dinner had been real, or at least it had felt real. His attentiveness, his genuine interest in her work, the way he listened like every word mattered. Had that all been an act? I need to go home, she said finally. Will you let me fly you? Eli asked. It's safer. No, Nia cut him off. I'll take a cab, or an Uber. I just need to be alone right now. Disappointment flashed across Eli's face, but he nodded. I understand. At least let Robert drive you back. Please. Nia hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. Can I call you tomorrow? Eli asked as she turned to go. Nia paused. I don't think that's a good idea.
Nia, please, Eli said, his voice soft. Tonight was special. I felt it and I think you did too. I thought I did, Nia said quietly. But now I don't know what was real and what wasn't. She climbed back into the SUV without looking at him again. As Robert drove her away from the airfield, Nia watched through the rear window as Eli's figure grew smaller, standing alone on the tarmac beside his family's jet. The ride back to the city was a blur of confusing emotions: anger at being deceived, embarrassment at not realizing who Eli really was, and underneath it all, a nagging feeling of loss for what might have been, for the connection she'd felt with the man who'd listened so intently to her stories about her students, who'd smiled so warmly when she'd made him laugh. When Robert dropped her off outside her apartment building, he handed her a card with a phone number written on it. "Mr. Monroe asked me to give you this," he said. "It's his personal number, not the one his assistant manages." Nia took the card without a word and walked into her building. Inside her apartment, she tossed the card onto her kitchen counter and collapsed onto her couch, emotionally exhausted. Her phone buzzed with a text from Tanya. "How did it go? Details." Nia stared at the message, unsure how to even begin explaining the evening. After a moment, she typed, "I'll call you tomorrow." "It's complicated." She set her phone down and looked at the card on her counter. Eli Monroe's phone number. A direct line to a world she'd never been part of, a world of private jets and family crests and photographers hiding in bushes. "You made me feel seen," she had told him on the airfield. "Then you made me feel like a fool." The first part was still true, she realized. Throughout their dinner, Eli had made her feel truly seen for the first time since her breakup with Derek. Maybe for the first time ever. Nia picked up the card, running her finger over the embossed number. Then with a decisive motion, she placed it in her drawer. Not thrown away, but not used either. She needed time to think. 3 days had passed since Nia's disastrous date with Eli Monroe. 3 days of checking her phone, staring at his business card, and trying to convince herself she was better off without another complication in her life. "You should call him," Tanya insisted, as they sat in Nia's classroom after school, organizing art supplies. Nia had finally told her friend everything that had happened. "He lied to me," Nia said, arranging paintbrushes by size in a ceramic holder her students had made. "He didn't lie," Tanya argued. "He just didn't tell you his full story right away." "That's the same thing, is it?" Tanya raised an eyebrow. "Did you tell him everything about yourself on the first date? About Derek? About your mother?" Nia frowned. "That's different, is it?" Tanya repeated. "We all hold back parts of ourselves until we feel safe. For most people, it's emotional baggage. For Eli, it's his last name, and his private jet," Nia added dryly. "Girl, do you hear yourself?" Tanya laughed. "You're mad because the man has a private jet. Most women would consider that a bonus." "I'm not most women," Nia said firmly. "I don't care about his money. I care that he wasn't honest." Tanya's expression softened. "I know. And that's why he likes you. Jason says Eli has dated socialites and models who only wanted his money. He was trying to see if you were different." "Well, now he knows," Nia said, closing the supply cabinet with more force than necessary. "And so do I." That night, alone in her apartment, Nia pulled out her sketchbook. She hadn't drawn anything for herself in months, too busy with lesson plans and grading. But now her fingers itched to create. Without consciously deciding what to draw, she found herself sketching a pair of eyes, warm, attentive, with tiny crinkles at the corners. Eli's eyes. Frustrated, she flipped to a new page and tried again. This time, she drew a jet silhouetted against the night sky. "This is ridiculous," she muttered, slamming the sketchbook closed. Her phone rang, startling her. It was an unfamiliar number. "Hello," she answered cautiously. "Miss Carter, this is Robert, Mr. Monroe's driver." Nia's heart skipped a beat. "Yes, Mr. Monroe asked me to deliver something to your apartment. I'm outside your building now." Nia moved to her window, and peered down at the street. Sure enough, the black SUV was parked by the curb. "What is it?" she asked. "I'm not at liberty to say, ma'am. Mr. Monroe was quite specific that you should see for yourself." Curiosity overcame her reluctance. "I'll be down in a minute." When Nia stepped outside, Robert was standing beside the SUV, holding a large flat package wrapped in brown paper. "Mr. Monroe asked me to give you this," he said, handing it to her. It was light for its size. "Thank you," Nia said, confused. "Did he send a message?" "Just this," Robert said, pulling an envelope from his pocket. Nia nodded her thanks and carried everything back upstairs. In her apartment, she set the package on her kitchen table and opened the envelope first. Inside was a handwritten note. "Nia, I can't stop thinking about our conversation. You were right. I should have been honest from the start. I'm not good at this. After my mother died, I closed myself off. My father taught me that vulnerability is weakness. But with you I felt something I haven't felt in years. I felt seen. Not as a Monroe, but as me. I'm not asking for forgiveness, just a chance to show you who I really am. All of me this time." Eli. Nia stared at the note, her anger softening despite herself. The handwriting was slightly uneven, not the perfect penmanship she would have expected from someone with his education. It looked human, real. She unwrapped the package slowly. Inside was a canvas, about 2 feet square. On it was a painting, an impressionist-style landscape of a wildflower field at sunset. The colors were vibrant, the brushstrokes confident, but not professional. At the bottom corner was a signature, E.M. Nia's breath caught. Had Eli painted this? Another note was taped to the back of the canvas. "My mother taught me to paint when I was young. My father discouraged it after she died, said it was a waste of time. I started again last year, in secret. This is the first painting I've shown anyone. It's the view from my mother's favorite place, the hill behind our summer house in Virginia. She used to say that in a field of wildflowers, no single bloom has to pretend to be something it's not. Each one is perfect exactly as it is." Nia ran her fingers over the brushstrokes, feeling the texture of the paint. "This wasn't a gift you could buy, no matter how much money you had. This was a piece of someone's soul." Her phone rang again. This time, it was the number from Eli's card. Nia took a deep breath and answered. "Did Robert deliver the painting?" Eli asked, his voice tentative. "Yes," Nia said. "Did you really paint this?" "I did," Eli admitted. "It's not very good, I know. It's beautiful," Nia said, honestly. "The colors, the feeling of it. My mother would have loved to hear you say that," Eli said softly. "She always told me to paint what I feel, not what I see." A moment of silence stretched between them. "Why did you send this to me?" Nia finally asked. "Because it's the most honest thing about me," Eli replied. "Not the jets or the houses, or the family name. This, what I feel when I look at those wildflowers, this is who I am." Nia closed her eyes, torn between the connection she felt and the warning bells in her head. "I'm not ready to forgive you," she said, finally. "I understand," Eli said, disappointment clear in his voice. But Nia continued, "I'm willing to talk. Just talk. No jets, no drivers, no surprises. Name the time and place," Eli said, hope returning to his voice. "I'll be there. There's a coffee shop near my school. Beans and books on Maple Street, tomorrow at 4. I'll be there," Eli promised. "Thank you, Nia." After they hung up, Nia looked at the painting again. She lifted it carefully and carried it to her living room, placing it on the mantel above her small fireplace. The colors brightened the whole room. For the first time in months, she felt a spark of something she'd almost forgotten, possibility. The next afternoon, Nia arrived at Beans and Books 15 minutes early, her nerves making it impossible to sit still in her apartment any longer. She chose a table in the back corner, away from the windows. At exactly 4 o'clock, the door opened, and Eli walked in. He was dressed casually in jeans and a grey sweater, looking more like the man she'd met at dinner than the wealthy heir who'd revealed himself at the airfield. He spotted her and smiled tentatively as he approached. "You came," Nia said, surprised despite herself. "I said I would," Eli replied, sitting down across from her. "No jets, no drivers. How did you get here?" "I took the bus," Eli said with a small smile. Got some interesting looks from the other passengers. Nia couldn't help but smile back. The heir to Monroe shipping riding public transportation. I'm sure that made someone's day. Probably the guy who not so subtly took my picture, Eli said with a shrug. It'll be on social media by dinner. Does that bother you? Nia asked, genuinely curious. It used to, Eli admitted. Now I just accept it as part of my life. A waitress came to take their orders, a latte for Nia and black coffee for Eli. So Nia said after the waitress left, "Tell me the truth this time. Who is Eli Monroe, really?" Eli took a deep breath. "The truth, I'm a 29-year-old man who grew up with every material advantage and very little emotional support. My mother was the heart of our family. When she died, my father buried himself in work and expected me to do the same. And did you?" "For a long time, yes," Eli said. "I went to the right schools, got the right degrees, took my place in the family business. I did everything he asked, thinking it would make him proud, make him love me the way he loved my mother." Nia saw the pain in his eyes and resisted the urge to reach for his hand. "Did it work?" she asked softly. Eli shook his head. "Nothing works. He's empty inside. Has been since she died. The only time I see any emotion from him is when I disappoint him. Like when you paint," Nia guessed. "Or when I volunteer instead of attending board meetings, or when I refuse to date the daughters of his business associates." Eli's smile was sad. "I spent years trying to be the son he wanted. It nearly broke me. What changed? Last year I found my mother's journals," Eli said. "She kept them hidden in her art studio, the one room my father never enters. In them she wrote about her fears, that my father's world would crush my spirit, that I'd forget how to see beauty, how to feel joy." Their drinks arrived, and Eli took a sip of his coffee before continuing. Reading her words, it was like she was speaking to me across time. I realized I'd become exactly what she feared, a shell of myself, living for my father's approval. "So you started painting again," Nia said, "and volunteering, and saying no to my father when necessary." Eli looked directly at her, "and trying to meet people who see me, not my bank account." Nia stirred her latte, processing his words. "That explains why you didn't tell me who you were. But why the big reveal at the airfield? Why not just let Robert drive me home?" Eli grimaced. "That was a mistake. The photographer who spotted us works for a particularly nasty tabloid. They've been after a story about me since my ex went public with her tell-all. When my security team said he'd followed us from the restaurant, I panicked. And the jet was your escape plan." "It sounds ridiculous now," Eli admitted. "But yes, I thought I was protecting you from becoming tabloid fodder." "I can protect myself," Nia said firmly. "I know that now," Eli said. "You're stronger than anyone I've ever met." They fell into silence, the background noise of the coffee shop filling. "Tell me about your ex," Nia said finally. "The one who sold her story." Eli winced. "Vanessa. We dated for about 6 months. She was everything my father wanted for me. Beautiful, from the right family, understood the social obligations that come with the Monroe name. But there was nothing beneath the surface," Eli said. "We never talked about anything real. I never once felt like she saw me, just my name, my money, my status. What happened? I ended it," Eli said. "She didn't take it well. 2 weeks later, there was a 12-page spread in exclusive magazine. My life with a Monroe, the truth behind the fortune." "What did she say?" "That I was emotionally unavailable, cold, calculating. That I used her as arm candy while conducting secret business deals." Eli shook his head. "She made me sound like some kind of monster." Were any of the accusations true? Nia asked bluntly. Eli met her gaze. I was emotionally unavailable. Yes. The rest, no. But the story sold magazines, and suddenly I was the heartless heir who discarded women when they outlived their usefulness. Nia considered him thoughtfully. Is that why you're so careful now? Why you hid who you were from me? Partly, Eli admitted. But mostly, I just wanted one night where someone got to know me before my last name got in the way. Nia understood that desire all too well. After her breakup with Derek, she'd felt labeled the complicated girlfriend, the woman who was too much. All she'd wanted was someone who would see beyond that label to the person underneath. I get it, she said softly. We all want to be seen for who we really are. Eli's eyes brightened with hope. Exactly, that's exactly it. But Nia continued, being seen means being honest. All of you, not just the parts you choose to show. You're right, Eli said. I should have trusted you with the truth from the beginning. Yes, you should have, Nia agreed. Can I ask you something? Eli leaned forward. If Tanya had told you beforehand who I was, would you have agreed to meet me? Nia thought about it. Probably not, she admitted. I would have assumed we had nothing in common. That's what I was afraid of, Eli said. But I went about it all wrong. I'm sorry. His apology was simple, direct and sincere. No excuses, no justifications. I accept your apology, Nia said. But I'm still not sure where we go from here. Could we start over? Eli suggested. No secrets this time. Nia considered his request. The connection she'd felt with him at dinner had been real. She was sure of it now. And the man sitting across from her, vulnerable and honest, was someone she wanted to know better. Not start over, she decided, but maybe move forward, slowly. Eli's smile lit up his entire face. I'd like that. They spent the next 2 hours talking, really talking. Eli told her about the pressure of being the sole heir to the Monroe fortune, the weight of expectations that had been placed on his shoulders since childhood. Nia shared her struggles with her mother's criticism, her ex-boyfriend's betrayal, and her fears of never being enough. As the coffee shop began to close, they reluctantly gathered their things. Can I walk you home? Eli asked. Just walk, I promise. No SUVs hiding around the corner. Nia laughed. I'd like that. The evening air was cool as they strolled through the neighborhood. Eli kept a respectful distance between them, his hands in his pockets. What will you tell your father about me? Nia asked suddenly. Eli looked surprised. What do you mean? I'm not exactly the type of woman he'd want for his son, am I? Public school teacher, no family connections, definitely not from the right family. My father doesn't get to decide who I spend time with, Eli said firmly. Not anymore. Has he tried? Many times, Eli admitted. But I'm learning to stand up to him. It's not easy, he's a formidable man. But I'm not the obedient son I used to be. They reached Nia's apartment building and stopped outside.
Would you like to come up? Nia asked, surprising herself with the invitation. Eli shook his head gently. Not tonight. I think we should take this slow, remember? Nia felt a mixture of disappointment and respect. You're right, but I'd like to see you again, Eli said. Maybe dinner this weekend? I know a great little Italian place. No reservations needed, no tablecloths, definitely no photographers. That sounds perfect, Nia said, smiling. I'll call you, Eli promised. He hesitated, then leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he kissed her cheek softly. Good night, Nia Carter, he whispered. Good night, Elijah Monroe III, she replied with a teasing smile. As she watched him walk away, Nia touched her cheek where his lips had been. The warmth lingered, like the glow of possibility. Over the next few weeks, Nia and Eli settled into a rhythm. They met for coffee after her school day ended, had dinner at small, out-of-the-way restaurants, and spent Sunday afternoons walking in the park. Eli kept his promise: no drivers, no jets, no displays of wealth, but the outside world had other plans. One Monday morning, Nia arrived at school to find the principal, Mrs. Henderson, waiting for her with a concerned expression. "Nia, can we talk in my office?" she asked. Nia followed her, a sense of dread growing. On Mrs. Henderson's desk was a copy of Exclusive magazine. On the cover was a photo of Nia and Eli walking hand in hand through the park, with the headline, "Monroe's new love, what is he thinking?" "Is this you?" Mrs. Henderson asked, pointing to the photo. Nia nodded, her stomach churning. "Yes, that's me with Eli Monroe. We've been seeing each other," Mrs. Henderson sighed. "The article isn't flattering, Nia. They're questioning your motives, suggesting you're after his money." "That's ridiculous," Nia exclaimed. "I know that," Mrs. Henderson said gently. "But they've mentioned the school. We've already had reporters calling, asking about you." "What?" Nia felt like the floor was dropping out from under her. "What did you tell them?" "Nothing, of course. But I'm concerned about how this might affect our students. If reporters start showing up here..." "I understand," Nia said, her voice small. "What do you need me to do?" "Just be prepared," Mrs. Henderson advised, "and maybe talk to your friend about handling this situation." When Nia left the principal's office, she found several of her colleagues huddled together, whispering. They fell silent when they saw her, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and concern. By lunchtime, the story had spread throughout the school. Nia sat alone in her classroom, too upset to face the teacher's lounge. She pulled out her phone and called Eli. "Have you seen it?" she asked when he answered. "The magazine, yes." Eli's voice was tight with anger. "I'm so sorry, Nia. This is exactly what I was afraid would happen. They came to my school, Eli. They called my principal. I know my lawyers are already working on a cease and desist letter. They crossed a line mentioning your workplace." "A letter won't undo the damage," Nia said, fighting back tears. "Everyone's looking at me differently, like I'm some kind of gold digger." "No one who knows you would believe that," Eli said firmly. "You don't understand," Nia insisted. "I've worked hard to build a reputation here, to be respected as a teacher, and now I'm just the woman dating Eli Monroe. What can I do?" Eli asked, his voice desperate. "Tell me how to fix this." "I don't know if you can," Nia admitted. "This is your world, Eli, not mine. I don't know if I'm cut out for it." A long silence stretched between them. "Are you saying you want to end things?" Eli finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm saying I need time to think," Nia replied. "This is a lot to handle." "I understand," Eli said, though the pain in his voice was clear. "Take all the time you need. I'll be here when you're ready to talk." After they hung up, Nia sat staring at the finger paintings drying on the rack beside her desk. Simple, honest expressions of feeling, so different from the complicated adult world she now found herself navigating. That evening, there was a knock at her apartment door. When she opened it, she found Robert standing there. "Miss Carter," he said, with a respectful nod. "Mr. Monroe asked me to deliver this." He handed her an envelope and a small box. "Is he here?" Nia asked, looking past Robert into the hallway. "No, ma'am, he thought you might need space." Nia nodded, taking the items. "Thank you, Robert." Inside her apartment, she opened the envelope first. It contained another handwritten note. "Nia, I'm so sorry for the pain I've caused you. You were right to be cautious. My world is complicated and often cruel. I never wanted to drag you into this ugliness. I've enclosed a gift, not to buy your forgiveness, but to remind you of something important. Whatever you decide about us, please know that I see you, all of you, and you are extraordinary. Eli." With trembling fingers, Nia opened the small box. Inside was a delicate silver necklace with a pendant, a small artist's paintbrush, cast in silver with tiny colored stones representing paint droplets. Nia held it up, watching the light catch the gemstones. It was thoughtful, personal, a reference to her passion, not his wealth. She put the necklace on, feeling the cool metal against her skin. Then she went to her bookshelf and pulled out the photo album where she kept pictures of her students' art shows. Flipping through the pages, she smiled at the images of proud children standing beside their creations. This was her world, full of color, creativity, and joy. Was she really willing to give up a chance at love to protect it, or was there a way to have both? Nia didn't have the answer yet,
But as she touched the paintbrush pendant at her throat, she knew one thing for certain. Eli Monroe saw her, really saw her, in a way no one else ever had, and that was worth fighting for. 3 days passed without Nia contacting Eli. She wore his necklace hidden beneath her blouses, touching it occasionally when she needed strength. The reporters had stopped calling the school, but the damage was done. Whispers followed her through the hallways. Parents gave her curious looks during afternoon pickup. "You can't hide forever," Tanya said, sitting on Nia's couch Friday evening with a glass of wine in hand. "You need to make a decision." "I know," Nia sighed. "But what's the right choice? If I keep seeing Eli, this media circus will never end. If I break things off," she trailed off, unable to finish the thought. "You'll break both your hearts," Tanya finished for her. "Look, I've known you since college. I've never seen you connect with anyone the way you have with Eli. That was before my face was on the cover of a tabloid." Tanya leaned forward. "Can I be honest? This isn't just about the magazine." "You're scared." "Of course I'm scared," Nia exclaimed. "My whole life has been turned upside down." "No," Tanya shook her head. "You're scared because this could be real. After Derek, you convinced yourself you weren't meant for love, that you were too complicated, too much. Then Eli comes along and proves that wrong." Nia looked away. "It's not that simple." "It never is," Tanya agreed. "But sometimes we have to decide what's worth fighting for." After Tanya left, Nia pulled out her sketchbook again. This time she didn't fight the impulse to draw Eli. She sketched his face from memory, the gentle eyes, the dimple in his right cheek when he smiled, the way his forehead creased when he was thinking deeply. When she finished, she stared at the drawing. It wasn't just his physical features she'd captured, but something more: the kindness, the attentiveness, the way he looked at her like she was the only person in the room. Nia made her decision. She reached for her phone and called Eli. "Nia," he answered on the first ring, hope and uncertainty mingling in his voice. "Can we talk?" she asked. "In person?" "Of course," Eli said quickly. "Name the time and place." "Tomorrow morning. There's a place I want to show you." "I'll be there," Eli promised. The next morning dawned clear and bright. Nia drove to Oakwood Elementary School, empty on a Saturday. She had arranged with Mrs. Henderson to use her classroom for a few hours, a request the principal had granted with a knowing smile. Eli was waiting in the parking lot when she arrived, dressed casually in jeans and a blue button-down shirt. His face lit up when he saw her, though he maintained a respectful distance. "Thank you for coming," Nia said. "Thank you for calling," Eli replied. "I've missed you." "I've missed you too," Nia admitted, leading him toward the school entrance. "I want to show you something." Eli followed her through the quiet hallways to her classroom. When she opened the door, he stopped in surprise. The walls were covered with children's artwork, bright, bold creations full of imagination and heart. "Welcome to my world," Nia said, watching his reaction. Eli stepped inside, turning slowly to take it all in. "It's wonderful," he said softly. "So much color, so much life. This is what I do," Nia explained, moving to stand beside him. "I help children find their voice through art. It's not glamorous or wealthy, but it matters." "Of course it matters," Eli said, his eyes sincere. "What you do here is incredible." Nia touched a painting of a lopsided house with a rainbow overhead. "This is by Tommy. He's 7 and rarely speaks. But when he paints, you can see his whole heart on the page." She moved to another drawing, a family of stick figures, one much bigger than the others. "This is Lily's. Her father is in the military, deployed overseas. She draws him bigger than life because that's how she sees him." Eli studied each artwork carefully, asking questions, listening to the stories behind them. Finally they sat at Nia's desk facing each other. "Why did you bring me here?" Eli asked gently. Nia took a deep breath. "Because if we're going to have any chance together, you need to understand what matters to me. This classroom, these children, they're my life's work, not just a job." "I do understand," Eli said. "I see how your face lights up when you talk about your students. When that magazine mentioned the school, it threatened all this." Nia continued. "These kids deserve a teacher who isn't being followed by photographers or gossiped about in tabloids." Eli's expression grew serious. "You're right, and I'm so sorry my world intruded on yours this way. That's just it, Eli. Our worlds are completely different. You were born into wealth and privilege. I grew up in a middle-class family, where we counted every dollar. Does that have to matter? Eli asked. It might, Nia said honestly. I don't know how to navigate your world of private jets and family crests, and I won't pretend to be someone I'm not. I would never ask you to, Eli insisted, reaching for her hand. The woman who calls out a room full of 7-year-olds and gets them to listen, that's who I'm falling for. Nia felt her heart skip at his words. Falling for? Eli nodded, his eyes never leaving hers. Yes, I'm falling in love with you, Nia Carter. Not because you fit into my world, but because you've shown me a better one. Nia's eyes filled with tears. I'm scared, Eli, scared that sooner or later, you'll realize I don't belong in your life, that I'm too ordinary. Ordinary? Eli looked genuinely shocked. There is nothing ordinary about you. You're the most extraordinary woman I've ever met. He gestured around the classroom. Look at what you've created here. Look at the lives you're touching. My world of corporate boardrooms and charity galas, that's the ordinary world. Full of people playing parts, saying the right things, making the right connections, nothing real. Nia smiled through her tears. You're making it very hard to be practical. Good, Eli said, squeezing her hand. Maybe it's time to be a little impractical. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small object, a tiny handmade clay sculpture of a bird with outstretched wings. What's this? Nia asked, taking it from him. I made it, Eli admitted, looking slightly embarrassed. I've been taking a pottery class on Thursday nights. I'm not very good yet. Nia turned the little bird in her hands, noticing the imperfections, the careful attention to detail. It's beautiful, she said, meaning it. It's for you, Eli said, a reminder that we're both still learning to fly. Nia carefully set the clay bird on her desk and stood up. I think I'm ready to try, she said. If you are. Eli stood too, hope blazing in his eyes. I am. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together. He opened his arms, and Nia stepped into them, feeling the solid warmth of his embrace. It felt right. It felt like home. There's one more thing, Eli said, as they pulled apart. I want you to meet my father. Nia's eyes widened. Your father, Elijah Monroe Jr., the shipping magnate, the very same, Eli confirmed. If we're going to make this work, you need to understand where I come from. All of it, even the complicated parts. When? Nia asked, her stomach already tightening with anxiety. Tomorrow, Sunday dinner at the family estate. Eli looked apologetic. I know it's short notice, and I know it's intimidating, but I'll be right beside you the whole time. Nia thought of all the reasons to say no. She wasn't prepared, she had nothing to wear, she didn't know the first thing about dining with billionaires. But she also thought of Eli's words, whatever comes next, we'll face it together. Okay, she agreed, but you have to promise to warn me if I'm using the wrong fork. Eli laughed, his relief evident. Deal. Though I should warn you, my father is more likely to judge you on your knowledge of profit margins than your table manners. Wonderful, Nia said dryly. My specialty. As they left the classroom, Eli took her hand. Thank you for showing me your world, he said. It means everything that you trust me enough to let me in. Thank you for wanting to be part of it, Nia replied. Outside in the sunshine, Eli stopped suddenly. I almost forgot, how did you get here? I drove, Nia said, pointing to her 10-year-old sedan parked nearby. Good, Eli said with a grin. Because I took the bus again. Nia laughed. Elijah Monroe III, on public transportation 2 weekends in a row. The tabloids would never believe it. Let's keep it our secret, Eli said, pulling her close for a soft, sweet kiss that made her heart race. I'm getting used to having a few of those with you. Sunday arrived all too quickly. Nia spent hours trying on every outfit in her closet, finally settling on a simple navy blue dress that her mother had bought her for job interviews. It was the most expensive item she owned, but standing in front of her mirror, she couldn't help but wonder if it was good enough for dinner at the Monroe estate. At precisely 5 o'clock, a gentle knock sounded at her door. Eli stood there, looking handsome in gray slacks and a white dress shirt, no tie. You look beautiful, he said, his eyes appreciative. Is this okay? Nia asked, gesturing to her dress. I wasn't sure what to wear. It's perfect, Eli assured her. My father may be rich, but we don't dress for dinner unless it's a formal event. That's a relief, Nia said, grabbing her purse. Though I did practice using different forks last night, just in case. Eli laughed. You're going to be fine. Just be yourself. That's who I want my father to meet. Outside, Robert was waiting with the now familiar black SUV. I hope you don't mind, Eli said. The estate is about an hour outside the city. Too far for the bus. I suppose I can make an exception, Nia teased, though her stomach fluttered with nerves as Robert opened the door for them. As they drove out of the city, Eli held her hand, his thumb tracing gentle circles on her palm. Tell me about your father, Nia said. What should I expect? Eli considered her question carefully. My father is complicated. After my mother died, he changed, became harder, more focused on business than people. Do you look like him? No, Eli smiled. I take after my mother's side. She was artistic, passionate about literature and music. My father is all logic and strategy. They were opposites in many ways. How did they meet? At Yale. She was studying art history. He was in business school. According to my mother, he pursued her for months before she agreed to go out with him. What changed her mind? He showed up at her dormitory in the pouring rain to return a book she'd left in the library. Eli said, his expression softening at the memory. She always said that was the moment she saw past his business school exterior to the man underneath. He must have loved her very much, Nia observed. He did, Eli nodded. Which is why losing her destroyed him. He doesn't know how to love halfway, my father. It's all or nothing, like someone else I know, Nia said gently. Eli squeezed her hand. I suppose so. I just hope I've learned to balance passion with wisdom better than he has. The SUV turned onto a private road, winding through manicured grounds toward an imposing mansion set against a backdrop of trees. Nia's breath caught at the sight. It wasn't just a house, it was an estate, with columns and terraces and perfectly trimmed hedges. Home sweet home, Eli said, a touch of irony in his voice. You grew up here? Nia asked, trying to keep the awe from her voice. For most of my childhood, Eli confirmed. After mother died, father and I rattled around in it like two marbles in a shoebox. Too much space, too many memories. Robert pulled up to the front entrance, where stone steps led to massive double doors. A gray-haired man in a dark suit stood waiting. That's Harrison, our butler, Eli explained. He's been with the family since before I was born. Your butler, Nia repeated faintly. Of course, Eli turned to her, his expression serious. Remember, this isn't who I am. It's where I come from. There's a difference. Nia nodded, taking a deep breath as Robert opened the car door. Eli stepped out first, then offered his hand to help her. Miss Carter, Harrison greeted her with a formal nod. Welcome to Monroe Estate. Thank you. Nia managed, grateful for Eli's steady presence beside her. The interior of the mansion was even more impressive than the outside. Soaring ceilings, marble floors, artwork that belonged in museums rather than private homes. Eli guided her through the entrance hall toward a sitting room at the back of the house. Father prefers drinks in the south room before dinner, he explained in a low voice. It has the best view of the gardens. They paused outside a set of double doors. Eli squeezed her hand encouragingly. Ready? Nia nodded, though her heart was pounding. As I'll ever be. Eli opened the doors, and they stepped into a beautifully appointed room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking meticulously landscaped gardens. Standing by the windows, drink in hand, was a tall, imposing man with silver hair and sharp features. Father, Eli said, I'd like you to meet Nia Carter. Elijah Monroe Jr. turned slowly, his piercing gray eyes assessing Nia with cool precision. Unlike his son, there was no warmth in his gaze, no hint of welcome. Miss Carter, he said, his voice deep and controlled. My son has spoken of you, frequently. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Monroe, Nia said, proud that her voice remained steady. Please sit, He gestured to the seating area. What can I offer you to drink? Wine? Something stronger. Wine would be lovely, Nia said, taking a seat on a brocade sofa that probably cost more than her annual salary. Eli sat beside her, his presence reassuring. How was Singapore, father? Did the merger go through? Of course, Elijah said, dismissively, as if success was the only possible outcome. He handed Nia a glass of red wine before sitting across from them. Now, Miss Carter, Eli tells me you're a teacher. The way he said teacher made it sound like a curious hobby rather than a profession. Yes, I teach art at Oakwood Elementary, Nia replied. And this is fulfilling for you? Elijah asked, his tone suggesting he couldn't imagine how it could be. Very, Nia said firmly. Helping children discover their creativity is incredibly rewarding. Elijah nodded, though his expression remained skeptical. And your family, what business are they in? My father is a postal worker, Nia said, lifting her chin slightly. He's been with the United States Postal Service for 30 years. My mother is a nurse at Mercy Hospital. Elijah's eyebrows rose fractionally. Honest work, he said, in a tone that might have been approval or condescension. Nia couldn't tell which. The most honest I know, she agreed. A silence fell, heavy with unasked questions. Eli cleared his throat. Nia's students recently had an art show at the community center, he said. Their work was exceptional, was it? Elijah asked, his attention still fixed on Nia. And what do you see in my son, Miss Carter? What attracts a teacher to the air of Monroe shipping? Father, Eli warned, his voice tight. It's a fair question, Elijah said smoothly. I'm merely curious. Nia set her wine glass down carefully. What attracts me to your son, Mr. Monroe, is his kindness, his attention to others, the way he listens, really listens when people speak, the way he sees beauty in the world. She met Elijah's gaze directly, none of which has anything to do with shipping or inheritances. Elijah stared at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then, to Nia's surprise, the corner of his mouth twitched in what might have been the ghost of a smile. You speak your mind, he observed. That's rare in my experience. It's how I was raised, Nia replied. And how do your parents feel about your association with my son? They don't know yet, Nia admitted. But when they meet him, they'll judge him by his character, not his bank account. Elijah leaned back in his chair, studying her with new interest. Your honesty is refreshing, if nothing else. Before the conversation could continue, Harrison appeared at the door. Dinner is served, sir, shall we? Elijah stood, offering his arm to Nia in an old-fashioned gesture. Eli looked surprised, but nodded encouragingly. Nia placed her hand lightly on Elijah's arm, allowing him to escort her to the dining room. The dining table could have seated 20, but was set for just the 3 of them at one end. Crystal glittered under the chandelier's light, and silver place settings gleamed against the dark mahogany table. As they took their seats, Elijah at the head with Eli and Nia on either side, Nia was relieved to see only 3 forks at her place setting. She could handle 3 forks. The first course arrived, a delicate soup that Nia wouldn't have been able to name. As they ate, Elijah directed the conversation toward business, asking Eli about quarterly reports and book. Nia listened, watching the dynamics between father and son. Eli was respectful, but firm, holding his ground when they disagreed about strategy. She could see the tension between them, Elijah pushing, Eli resisting, both too similar in their determination to give way easily. During the main course, perfectly cooked beef with vegetable Nia didn't recognize, Elijah turned his attention back to her. Tell me, Miss Carter, what do you know about the shipping industry? Very little, Nia admitted, though I imagine it's considerably more complex than moving containers from one port to another. Indeed, Elijah nodded. It's about global strategy, anticipating market trends, understanding international relations. One mistake can cost millions, like teaching, Nia said thoughtfully. Elijah frowned. I fail to see the comparison. Both require strategy and foresight, Nia explained. In your world, a mistake costs money. In mine, it could cost a child's potential. Different scales, similar stakes. Eli smiled at her, pride evident in his expression. Elijah looked momentarily taken aback, then an interesting perspective, he conceded. As dessert was served, a rich chocolate cake that melted in Nia's mouth, the conversation shifted to safer topics. Elijah asked about her hometown, her education, her interests outside of teaching. His questions remained probing, but the open hostility had faded. After dinner, they returned to the sitting room for coffee. Eli excused himself briefly to take a phone call, leaving Nia alone with his father. An uncomfortable silence stretched between them, until Elijah finally spoke. "My son is different since he met you," he said abruptly. "Different how?" Nia asked. "More determined, more willing to challenge me." Elijah's expression was complex, annoyance mixed with something like respect. "He's standing up for himself in ways he never did before." "Is that a bad thing?" Nia asked. "It makes running a business more complicated," Elijah replied. Then surprisingly, he added, "But perhaps it makes him a better man." He moved to a side table and picked up a framed photograph, handing it to Nia. It showed a beautiful woman, with Eli's warm eyes and gentle smile, standing in a field of wildflowers. "His mother," Elijah said softly, "Elizabeth." Nia looked at the photo, recognizing the scene instantly. The wildflower field, from Eli's painting. Elijah looked startled. "He showed you his paintings?" "Yes," Nia said. "He's very talented. He gets that from her," Elijah said, a deep sadness momentarily breaking through his controlled exterior. "She always saw beauty, where I saw only practical value." "She sounds wonderful," Nia said gently. "She was everything," Elijah said, his voice so low, Nia barely heard him. Then, as if catching himself showing too much emotion, he straightened and took the photo back. "My son thinks I disapprove of his artistic pursuits because they're impractical. The truth is, they remind me too much of what I've lost." Before Nia could respond, Eli returned, looking between them curiously. "Everything all right?" he asked. "Perfectly fine," Elijah said, his businesslike demeanor firmly back in place. "Miss Carter and I were just discussing your mother's appreciation for art." Eli looked surprised but pleased. "She would have loved Nia's classroom," he said. "All those children creating from their hearts." "Yes," Elijah agreed, his eyes lingering on Nia. "I believe she would have." As the evening drew to a close, Harrison brought their coats. Elijah walked them to the door, his manner formal but not unkind. "It was illuminating to meet you, Miss Carter," he said, offering his hand. "Likewise, Mr. Monroe," Nia replied, shaking it firmly. To Eli, Elijah said, "Don't forget the board meeting on Tuesday. The Singapore contracts need your signature." "I'll be there," Eli promised. In the SUV driving back to the city, Nia finally relaxed, leaning against Eli's shoulder. "That wasn't as terrible as I feared," she admitted. "You were amazing," Eli said, kissing the top of her head. "I've never seen anyone stand up to my father that way and live to tell about it." Nia laughed. "He's intimidating, but I can see where you get your determination." "What did he say to you when I stepped out?" Eli asked curiously. Nia considered how much to share. "He showed me a picture of your mother, and he talked about how you've changed since we met." "Changed? Become more willing to challenge him," Nia explained. "He seemed to think I was responsible." "You are," Eli said simply. "You make me brave enough to be myself." Nia smiled, warmth spreading through her chest. "I think he might come to accept us, in his own way." "That would be a first," Eli remarked. "My father accepting something he didn't plan himself." "People can surprise you," Nia said, thinking of the brief glimpse of vulnerability she'd seen in Elijah's eyes when he spoke of his late wife. When they reached Nia's apartment, Eli walked her to her door. "Thank you for today," he said. "I know meeting my father wasn't easy." "Nothing worth having ever is," Nia replied, reaching up to touch his face. Eli caught her hand and pressed a kiss to her palm. "I'm falling more in love with you every day," he whispered. "I'm falling too," Nia admitted, the words coming easily now. "Even though it scares me, we'll be scared together," Eli promised, pulling her close for a tender kiss that left her breathless. When they parted, Eli brushed a strand of hair from her face. "I should go. Early meeting tomorrow. Call me when you're done," Nia asked. "Count on it." Eli smiled, kissing her once more before reluctantly stepping away. Nia watched him leave, her heart full. For the first time since Derek, she was allowing herself to hope to believe that maybe, just maybe, fairy tales could come true, even for someone who had sworn off them forever. Inside her apartment, she placed the little clay bird Eli had made on her bedside table, next to the photo of her students from last year's art show. Two worlds, gradually merging into one.
As she got ready for bed, her phone chimed with a text message. Expecting Eli, she was surprised to see it was from an unknown number. "Miss Carter, I've taken the liberty of obtaining your number from my son's phone. There is a matter I wish to discuss with you privately. Would you be available for lunch tomorrow? Nia Monroe Jr." Nia stared at the message, anxiety fluttering in her stomach. What could Eli's father possibly want to discuss with her that he couldn't say in front of his son? After a moment's hesitation, she replied, "I have a lunch break from 11:30 to 12:15. I could meet near the school." The response came immediately, "My driver will pick you up at 11:30. I'll ensure you're back by 12:15. Nia set her phone down, uncertain whether she had just made a terrible mistake. Should she tell Eli, or wait to find out what his father wanted? She decided to wait. Whatever Elijah Monroe had to say, she would face it head-on, just as she had faced everything else in her life. The next morning, Nia could hardly focus on her lessons. Her mind kept returning to Elijah Monroe's mysterious text and the upcoming lunch meeting. What could he possibly want to discuss with her alone? Was he going to try to buy her off, warn her away from his son? The possibilities made her stomach churn. At precisely 11:30, her classroom phone rang. The school secretary informed her that a car was waiting. Nia took a deep breath, checked her appearance in the small mirror she kept in her desk, and headed outside. Robert stood beside the familiar black SUV, opening the door as she approached. To her surprise, Elijah Monroe himself sat inside, his tall frame imposing even while seated. "Miss Carter," he greeted her with a formal nod. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me." "Mr. Monroe," Nia replied, sliding into the seat across from him. "I admit I'm curious about what couldn't be discussed in front of your son." A hint of approval flashed in Elijah's eyes at her directness. "I prefer efficiency in conversation as well as business," he said. "We'll talk over lunch." Robert drove them to an elegant restaurant downtown, where they were immediately escorted to a private dining room. Nia had passed this restaurant many times but never ventured inside. The prices on the menu posted outside were more than her daily salary. Once they were seated and had ordered, Elijah recommended the salmon, which Nia accepted. He studied her with the same penetrating gaze he'd used the night before. "I'll come directly to the point, Miss Carter," he said. "My son is in love with you." Nia's heart skipped a beat, but she kept her expression calm. "Has he told you that? He doesn't need to," Elijah replied. "I recognize the signs. His mother had the same effect on me many years ago." Nia wasn't sure how to respond, so she waited for him to continue. "Eli has never defied me the way he has since meeting you," Elijah said, his tone measured. "He's missed board meetings, delegated responsibilities, even challenged acquisition strategies I've spent months developing. I haven't asked him to do any of that," Nia said firmly. "I know," Elijah surprised her by saying, "which is precisely why I wanted to speak with you privately." Their first course arrived, a delicate salad that Nia would never have been able to afford on her teacher's salary. She waited until the server had left before asking, "What exactly do you want from me, Mr. Monroe?" Elijah set down his fork and leveled his gaze at her. "I want to understand the woman who has captured my son's heart." "Why? So you can find a way to discredit me?" Nia challenged. "Quite the opposite," Elijah replied. "I want to determine if you're worthy of him." Nia felt a flash of anger. "With all due respect, Mr. Monroe, that's not your decision to make. Eli is a grown man capable of choosing his own partner." "Of course he is," Elijah agreed, surprising her again. But he is also the heir to a business empire that employs thousands of people across 6 continents. His choices affect more than just himself. And you think I would be a liability? Nia asked directly. That's what I'm trying to determine, Elijah said. When Elizabeth, my wife, entered my life, my father had similar concerns. She was an art history major with no interest in business. He feared she would distract me from my responsibilities. And did she? A rare smile softened Elijah's stern features, in the best possible ways. She taught me that there was more to life than balance sheets and profit margins. She gave me perspective I never would have gained in a boardroom. Their main courses arrived, momentarily pausing the conversation. Nia's salmon was perfectly cooked, but she barely tasted it, too focused on Elijah's words. You loved her very much, Nia observed softly. More than I could express, Elijah admitted, even to her. That's my greatest regret, that I never fully showed her what she meant to me. I thought we had time. His voice grew distant. We never have as much time as we think. Nia saw genuine pain in his eyes, so at odds with his commanding presence. I'm sorry for your loss, she said sincerely. Elijah seemed to collect himself, his business demeanor returning. After Elizabeth died, I focused entirely on securing Eli's future. The company became everything. Perhaps too much so. Is that why you disapprove of his painting? Nia asked. Elijah looked surprised. He told you about that? Nia nodded. He said you thought it was a waste of time. What I said and what I meant were different things, Elijah replied. When I see him with a paintbrush, he looks exactly like his mother. It's difficult, but it's part of who he is, Nia said gently. The part he inherited from her. Yes, Elijah agreed, looking thoughtful. I'm beginning to see that suppressing that side of him has only pushed him further away. He took a sip of water, then fixed Nia with another direct look. You don't care about his money, do you? No, Nia said honestly. In fact, it's the most complicated part of our relationship. I was attracted to Eli's kindness, his attentiveness, the way he listens. The wealth is an obstacle we're working through. Elijah studied her for a long moment, then reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small box. He placed it on the table between them. This belonged to Elizabeth, he said. She wore it every day from the moment I gave it to her until, he paused, until she became too ill to wear jewelry. Nia looked at the box but didn't touch it. Mr. Monroe, I don't understand. Open it, he instructed. With hesitant fingers, Nia lifted the lid. Inside was a delicate gold locket on a fine chain. The locket was shaped like a small paintbrush, almost identical to the silver one Eli had given her, but clearly an antique. Elizabeth was an artist like my son, Elijah explained. I had this made for her when we got engaged. She said it reminded her that I loved all of her, even the parts I didn't fully understand. Nia carefully closed the box and slid it back across the table. It's beautiful, but I can't accept this. It should go to Eli. It will, Elijah said, leaving the box where it was. Someday, when he finds the woman he wants to spend his life with. Nia's eyes widened as his meaning became clear. Mr. Monroe, Eli and I have only known each other for a few weeks. It's far too soon to be thinking about marriage, Elijah supplied. Perhaps, but I've watched my son these past weeks. I've seen the change in him. He's happier, more confident, more willing to stand his ground. You've awakened something in him that I feared was lost when his mother died. He pushed the box toward her again. I'm not asking you to marry him tomorrow. I'm asking you to consider that it might be possible someday. And when, if that day comes, I want you to have this ready to receive. Nia stared at the box, overwhelmed by its significance. Have you discussed this with Eli? No. Elijah shook his head. This is between you and me for now, a token of my acceptance. You hardly know me, Nia protested. I know enough, Elijah replied. You speak your mind, you stand your ground. You see my son for who he is, not what he has. Those qualities are rare in our world, Miss Carter, rarer than you might imagine. Nia hesitated, then carefully took the box and placed it in her purse.
I'll keep it safe, she promised. But I won't make any decisions based on your approval or disapproval. Eli and I will find our own path. Elijah nodded, seemingly satisfied with this answer. That's all I ask. That and one more thing. What's that? Nia asked cautiously. Make him happy, Elijah said simply. In a way that I never quite managed to do. The rest of the lunch passed in lighter conversation. Elijah asked about her teaching methods, seeming genuinely interested in her work with children. By the time Robert dropped her back at school, exactly at 12:15 as promised, Nia felt as though she'd glimpsed a different man behind Elijah Monroe's formidable facade. That afternoon, as her students worked on their clay projects, Nia's phone buzzed with a text from Eli. Dinner tonight. I've missed you. She smiled and replied, yes, your place this time. I'd like to see where you live. Pick you up at 7, came the immediate response. Nia touched her purse, feeling the small box inside. Her lunch with Elijah had left her with much to think about, but one thing was certain. Her relationship with Eli had just become more serious than she'd ever imagined possible. At precisely 7 o'clock, Eli knocked on her door. Instead of Robert and the SUV, he stood beside a modest blue sedan parked at the curb. You drove yourself? Nia asked, surprised. I do know how, Eli teased, opening the passenger door for her. I just rarely get the chance. Security protocols and all that. And tonight I convinced my security team that I could manage one evening of normalcy, Eli said, sliding into the driver's seat. Though I should warn you, there's probably a very discreet car following us at a respectful distance. Nia laughed. I can live with that. They drove to a part of the city Nia wasn't familiar with, an area of renovated warehouses converted into luxury apartments. Eli pulled into an underground garage and parked in a reserved spot. Home sweet home, he said, leading her to a private elevator that required a key card to operate. When the elevator doors opened, Nia stepped directly into a spacious loft apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a stunning view of the city skyline and the river beyond. The space was open and airy, with exposed brick walls, hardwood floors, and a mix of modern and antique furniture. But what caught Nia's attention immediately were the paintings. Dozens of them hung on the walls, leaned against furniture, even stood on easels in a corner set up as a studio. You did all these? She asked, moving from one canvas to another. Landscapes, cityscapes, abstracts, all showing the same confident brushstrokes she'd recognized in the wildflower field he'd given her. My secret life, Eli admitted, watching her explore. Until recently no one had seen these besides me. They're wonderful, Nia said sincerely. You have real talent, Eli. He looked pleased but embarrassed by her praise. It's just a hobby. It's more than that, Nia insisted. It's how you see the world. She stopped in front of a painting she immediately recognized. The Monroe estate seen from a distance, the grand house dwarfed by storm clouds gathering above it. The mood was somber, heavy with unspoken emotion. This is how you see your childhood home, she said softly. Eli nodded, coming to stand beside her. Impressive from the outside, dark within. At least that's how it felt after Mother died. Nia turned to face him. I had lunch with your father today. Eli's eyebrows shot up in surprise. You what? When? Why didn't you tell me? He asked me not to. Nia explained. He texted me last night and asked to meet privately. Concern crossed Eli's face. What did he want? Did he threaten you? Try to buy you off? No. Nia shook her head. Nothing like that. He wanted to get to know me better, to understand what I mean to you. And what conclusion did he reach? Eli asked warily. Nia hesitated, then reached into her purse and pulled out the small box Elijah had given her. He gave me this. Eli took the box and opened it. When he saw the gold locket inside, his expression changed to one of shock. This was my mother's, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. She wore it every day. I always wondered what happened to it after she died. Your father kept it, Nia said. He told me he had it made for her when they got engaged. Eli touched the locket gently, as if afraid it might disappear. Why would he give this to you? Nia took a deep breath. He said it should go to the woman you want to spend your life with. Eli's eyes snapped up to meet hers, wide with surprise. He said that, my father? Yes, Nia nodded. He seems to think we have a future together. And what do you think? Eli asked, his voice soft but intense. Nia stepped closer to him. I think it's too soon to know for certain. But I also think I'm falling in love with you, Eli Monroe. Despite the private jets and family estates and tabloid photographers. Maybe even because of how you've handled all of it. Eli set the box down carefully on a nearby table and took her hands in his. I don't just think I'm falling, Nia. I know I am. I love you, your strength, your honesty, your passion for your work. The way you stood up to my father. The way you see the real me. He pulled her gently into his arms. I know it's fast. I know we come from different worlds. But I've never felt this way about anyone before. Neither have I, Nia admitted, resting her head against his chest. It scares me how right this feels. We can take it as slow as you need, Eli promised. I'm not going anywhere. Nia looked up at him, her decision made. I don't want slow, I want real. Whatever that means, whatever challenges come with it. Eli's face lit up with joy. He leaned down and kissed her. A kiss full of promise and possibility. When they parted, he rested his forehead against hers. So what happens now? Now, Nia smiled. You show me the rest of your apartment. We have dinner, and we start figuring out how to blend our two very different worlds. Speaking of dinner, Eli said, reluctantly releasing her, I should check on it. I've been cooking all afternoon. You cook? Nia asked, surprised yet again. Another secret talent, Eli grinned. Though I'm much better with a paintbrush than a spatula. As he moved toward the kitchen, Nia wandered over to the windows, taking in the spectacular view. Her gaze fell on a sketchbook lying open on a small table. On the page was a familiar face, her own, captured in delicate pencil strokes. I hope you don't mind, Eli said, noticing what she was looking at. I couldn't get your expression out of my mind, the way you looked when you were telling me about Tommy's painting in your classroom. It's beautiful, Nia said, touched by the care with which he'd drawn her. You're beautiful, Eli replied simply, inside and out. Over dinner, a surprisingly delicious pasta dish that Eli admitted he'd practiced making 3 times before getting right. They talked about the future, not in terms of forever, but in terms of next steps. I want you to meet my parents, Nia said. They're nothing like your father, but they're wonderful in their own way. I'd love that, Eli said eagerly. What should I bring? Wine? Flowers? Just yourself, Nia laughed. Though my dad wouldn't say no to a good bottle of scotch. And the tabloids? Eli asked, his expression growing serious. They're not going to leave us alone. Especially now that they know about you. We'll handle it, Nia said with more confidence than she felt. I spoke with my principal yesterday. She's surprisingly supportive, says as long as reporters stay away from the school. My personal life is my business, and if they don't stay away, then we'll deal with that too. Nia said firmly. I won't give up what matters to me, not my job, and not you. Eli reached across the table and took her hand. Have I told you lately how extraordinary you are? Not in the past hour, Nia teased. After dinner, they moved to the couch with glasses of wine. Eli put on soft music, and they talked late into the night, about his work at Monroe Shipping, about her students, about books they loved and places they wanted to visit. I have something for you, Eli said suddenly, setting down his wine glass. He went to his studio corner and returned with a small canvas covered with a cloth. Another painting? Nia asked. Something different, Eli said, looking uncharacteristically nervous. I started it the night after our first date. I've been working on it ever since. He handed her the canvas. Nia removed the cloth and gasped. It wasn't a landscape or a portrait. It was a scene. Nia sitting at a small table, laughing, her face illuminated by candlelight. Across from her, seen from behind, was Eli, his posture attentive, leaning toward her. "Our first date," Nia whispered. From an observer's perspective, how it might have looked to someone watching us fall in love, Eli nodded. "I wanted to capture that moment, when everything changed, at least for me." "For me too," Nia admitted. "Though I fought it harder, with good reason," Eli said. "I didn't make it easy for you to trust me. Nothing worth having comes easy." Nia repeated her words from before, running her fingers over the canvas. "This is the most thoughtful gift anyone has ever given me." "There's something else," Eli said. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet pouch. "This isn't what you think," he assured her quickly, seeing her expression. "It's not a ring, not yet." He opened the pouch and tipped a small object into his palm, a delicate silver key. "It's a key to this apartment," he explained. "Not because I expect you to move in or even stay over. Just so you know you're always welcome here. This space, with all my paintings, all my secrets, is open to you, whenever you want it." Nia took the key, emotion welling in her throat. "Thank you," she managed. "That means more than you know." Later, as Eli drove her home, Nia thought about the whirlwind her life had become since that first blind date. The private jets and family estates were still foreign to her, still intimidating in their grandeur. But the man beside her, the real Eli, with his gentle heart and artist soul, he wasn't foreign at all. He felt like home. Outside her apartment building, Eli walked her to her door. "When can I see you again?" he asked, reluctant to leave. "Tomorrow," Nia suggested. "It's Saturday. We could visit that art supply store you mentioned, then have lunch at my favorite cafe." "Perfect," Eli agreed, pulling her close for a goodnight kiss. As they parted, Nia caught a flash of movement across the street, the unmistakable glint of a camera lens. "Looks like we have company," she sighed, nodding toward the photographer partially hidden behind a parked car. Eli tensed. "I'm sorry, I thought we'd lost them." Nia considered their options for a moment, then made a decision. Taking Eli's hand, she led him toward the photographer. "What are you doing?" Eli asked, confused. "Taking control," Nia replied. The photographer, a young man with a scruffy beard, looked startled as they approached. "Hi there," Nia said pleasantly. "Getting what you need?" Miss Carter, Mr. Monroe," the man stammered. "Just doing my job." "And what job is that?" Nia asked, following us around, trying to catch unflattering moments. The photographer had the grace to look embarrassed. "The magazines pay good money for candidates of Mr. Monroe." "I understand," Nia nodded. "You have bills to pay. But here's the thing, we're real people, with real lives and real feelings. How would you feel if someone followed you and your girlfriend around with a camera?" The photographer looked uncomfortable. "Not great, I guess. So here's my proposal," Nia continued. "You want a photo? Let's give you one worth publishing. But in return you give us the rest of the night in peace. Deal?" The young man looked surprised but nodded. "Deal." Nia turned to Eli, whose expression was a mixture of amazement and admiration. "Ready for our first official photo as a couple?" Eli smiled and wrapped his arms around her. "More than ready." As the camera clicked, capturing their embrace, Nia realized something important. She wasn't afraid anymore. Not of the tabloids, not of Eli's world, not even of her own heart. The photographer lowered his camera. "Thanks, that'll make a great cover. What will the headline be?" Eli asked, his arms still around Nia. The young man thought for a moment. "How about Monroe finds real love?" Nia smiled up at Eli. "Perfect." True to his word, the photographer packed up his equipment and left them in peace. Eli shook his head in wonder. "How do you do that? Turn a potential disaster into something positive?" "It's a teacher skill," Nia laughed. "You learn to redirect negative energy when you work with 7-year-olds. Eli's expression grew serious. "I love you, Nia Carter, more than I can say." I love you too, Nia replied, the words coming easily now. All of you, the heir and the artist, the businessman and the volunteer, every part. 6 months later, on a crisp spring morning, Nia stood on a hilltop overlooking a field of wildflowers, the same field from Eli's painting, from the photograph of his mother. It was even more beautiful in person, a riot of colors stretching toward the horizon. Eli stood beside her, their hands intertwined. In her free hand, Nia held a paintbrush. At her feet was an easel holding a blank canvas. Are you sure about this? Eli asked, watching her face. I'm sure, Nia nodded. You've shared your world with me, the business dinners, the charity galas, even the board meetings. Now I want to share mine with you. She handed him the brush. Art isn't just about technique, it's about feeling, about putting your heart on the canvas. Eli looked uncertain. I've never painted with anyone watching before, and I've never dated a billionaire before. Nia teased. We're both learning new things. Eli laughed, then grew serious again. What should I paint? What do you feel? Nia asked simply. Eli looked at her, then at the field of wildflowers, then back at her. Love, he said. Hope, possibility, then paint that, Nia encouraged. As Eli began to work, tentatively at first, then with growing confidence, Nia watched the man she loved doing what made him happiest. The real Eli, not the heir, not the businessman, but the artist with a gentle soul and a kind heart. In the distance, she could see the Monroe estate, no longer intimidating, but simply a part of Eli's story, their story now. And beyond it, a future neither of them could have imagined that first night at Rosie's cafe. A future they would paint together, one brushstroke at a time. When Eli finally stepped back from the canvas, what he'd created wasn't a realistic depiction of the field before. It was an explosion of color and light, the field as seen through the eyes of love. It's beautiful, Nia said, meaning it. It's how I see the world now, Eli replied, pulling her close. Because of you. The morning sun illuminated the wildflowers stretching before them, each bloom perfect in its own way. No pretense, no masks, no hiding, just like the love they'd found, unexpected, challenging, and more beautiful than either of them had dared to dream. More than what he seemed, more than what she thought she wanted, exactly what they both needed.